Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Turning Towards Life. We are Lizzie and Justin, and we are coming to you today from London and in the spirit, as always, of seeing what emerges as we speak. And we're here today with a source from Justin that is by one of my favorite people, Ursula Le Guin, and I'm so excited to be bringing this, Justin. And we've brought things actually from the same book before, and I feel like anything from that book will always be discombobulating and enlightening simultaneously, and I am so glad to be entering into that kind of space with you here from this source. So thank you for choosing it.
Yeah, thank you, Lizzie, and welcome to everyone in all the multi-dimensional ways that people follow this podcast and Instagram and TurningTowards.life website and everything. Well, I was so pleased to bring this, Lizzie, because I know that we've had Ursula Le Guin's work before and from this translation of hers of the Tao. And like you say, it's endlessly deep. I also think that we could probably bring the same source multiple times and stuff would happen. So the book is beautiful. I really want to heartily recommend it to everyone. I've got a copy of it here. I'm going to wave it around. It's Ursula Le Guin's translation of Lao Tzu's wonderful ancient book, a book about the way and the power of the way. The thing that I really love about Ursula Le Guin's translation is she's translated it, but she's not a speaker of the language that it's originally written in. And so her translations are not only translations, but they are, like all translations, are their interpretations, and her way of speaking is just fantastic. And this one, called Growing Downward, which if you're only just starting to listen to our podcast, you can always find the source in the notes for the podcast, or you can find it in our Facebook group, or you can find it also on the TurningTowards.life website. And with the YouTube videos, there's always a copy of the source there. So this one, Growing Downward, has been with me for a long time. And it's one of these ones that I carry around with me, and particularly when I'm in trouble, when I'm caught up in some difficulty and I've got really, really life-depleting stories about the trouble I'm in. Like all of us, I'm often in one kind of trouble or another. This is rescue for me, and it's also invitation for me. It's not just rescue as in I feel better, but it's a reminder of a certain kind of faithfulness that I can bring. So it's called Growing Downward. It's actually chapter 22 of part 1 of the Tao. And I'll read it first. Be broken to be whole. Twist to be straight. Be empty to be full. Wear out to be renewed. Have little and gain much. Have much and get confused. So wise souls hold to the one and test all things against it. Not showing themselves, they shine forth. Not justifying themselves, they're self-evident. Not praising themselves, they're accomplished. Not competing, they have all in the world. They have in all the world no competitor. What they used to say in the old days, be broken to be whole, was that mistaken? Truly, to be whole is to return. Oh, Lizzie, you are muted. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Justin, there's planes going very close to me today, so I was just muting for that time. Okay, here we go. Be broken to be whole. Twist to be straight. Be empty to be full. Wear out to be renewed. Have little and gain much. Have much and get confused. So wise souls hold to the one and test all things against it. Not showing themselves, they shine forth. not justifying themselves, they are self-evident. Not praising themselves, they're accomplished. Not competing, they have in all the world no competitor. What they used to say in the old days, be broken to be whole, was that mistaken? Truly, to be whole is to return.
Goodness, I find this so moving. The thing that's happening for me in you reading it, Lizzie, is it's reminding me how certain I can get about what will help me and how wrong I can be. So all the efforting I do, all the trying to make sure that people don't know how sad I am or how frightened I am, and how certain I can be. So I think this, for me, one of the places that this starts is it points right into the heart of what can easily become an invisible cycle for me, which goes something like, if I just take be broken to be whole, as long as I'm in the story of be whole to be whole, rather than be broken to be whole, I can very, very easily get into for me, the primary way this shows up is saying to people I'm okay, so as not to trouble them. Like pretending I'm fine when I'm really not, and imagining that if I was really, really good at telling people I was fine, my problems would be resolved. And when it doesn't happen that way, so I'm in more and more pain and more difficulty, just doing more of the same. So this sort of cycle that we get in, where we imagine that things aren't working out because I'm not trying hard enough at the thing I'm already doing, and I better double down my efforts. This just smashes through it. And every sentence smashes through it. Twist to be straight, be empty to be full. But it would be easy just to smash against, just to say the opposite. Like it's the easiest thing to do, to say the opposite. What moves me so much is that for example, be broken to be whole, which is where it starts. I'm really coming to see how every time I attempt to pretend I'm not broken, I make myself more and more broken, more and more incomplete. I leave out more and more of myself. So that the idea of that wholeness is some kind of unbrokenness gets smashed up rightfully, right? That in my attempts to be straight end up in rigidity. So twisting, I'm just thinking about it as bodily twisting. And what she says later on is such a relief also to me. Maybe I can shine forth without having to try to show myself in a world where everyone's apparently meant to be showing themselves all the time. Maybe if I relax the parts of me that justify and defend and try to keep me safe, I become self-evident rather than my protestations. So, part of the problem in talking about this is I'm properly discombobulated by it. And at the same time, it feels really true, heartbreaking and true and life-giving all at the same time.
Yeah, I do feel the discombobulation, and it's a funny feeling to feel discombobulated and completely compelled simultaneously. Like, I want to read this more. I want to read it loads of times. And it doesn't make sense to me in my kind of logical brain in some ways. And it makes complete sense to me in a different part of myself than I'm used to relating with or using to process information. So I can feel in my being, in my body, this kind of, this is real, this is true, I need this. It's like a kind of, there's an undoing that happens. I feel like it's like being thirsty for something, and that the thirst gets quenched in reading this. And I think the thing that's hitting me today in reading this, Justin, is it feels like it's giving me permission to be humble. It's like these lines in the middle, like not showing myself I might shine forth, and not praising myself I might be accomplished. It's kind of undoing my need to prove anything and giving me permission to be a non-proving person. And for some reason today, I'm finding that such a big invitation. It's like, oh God, proving myself is not going to save me. That's great. Someone's just been straight with me about that. Like it's not gonna do the trick, you know, and to be told that really straight. I feel like I'm being told that really straight here. And so when she says, why souls hold to the one and test all things against it, I feel like holding to the one is kind of recommitting again and again to doing the opposite of proving oneself by kind of being oneself and not having to say, look what I did and look how great I am. And it's like the opposite of kind of scrambling to be seen all the time. It's whatever we're talking about as holding to the one, it feels like having contact with myself and bringing myself what I need in terms of seenness, so that I don't scramble out into the world and try and get something from the world. The world's just not its job to give me. So it's becoming kind of self with a big S, referential, rather than little other referential, is how it's landing with me today. And I'm finding that very kind of freedom paving, you know, that I could exist without having to be verified by the world. That there's a source of my wellness, a source of my well-being, and my serenity, or something like that. That is not everything meeting me just the way that I need it to, but by me holding to the one and testing all the things that I can be against it. And so when I make contact in that place, I don't have to get up to all the shenanigans anymore. And I'm finding it very kind of expanding and relaxing. And like I can put all those projects down of proving and defending and protecting, like you said, and just take a deep breath and be here.
I think now that you're talking about it in that way, Lizzie, one of the reasons this is so powerful is it comes from a different place than our usual strategies of trying to get the world to be a particular way. And I was really struck by what you said. By the way, Lizzie, the background noise is fine. There's no background noise, can't hear it, so you can stay on. It's so nice to hear your breathing, and your voice really helps me to speaking with you. So that the place, the fearful defending place that I can come from is the one that wants to get the world under control, and it's the part of me that does what you said. For example, has me the part of me, the frightened smaller part of me that would have me project myself into the world so that I can get seen. That of me can't see that that's an endlessly unfulfillable strategy. It makes sense. Of course, we want to get seen, and we want to get loved, and we want to get met, and we want to get held. But the desperate trying to bring it about by doing more and more of any particular something is unfulfillable, not least of which because the moment that I do get seen by doing that part of me gets terrified that if I don't keep it up, I'll stop being seen, and then I'm going to get abandoned. So, or it goes, maybe I could get more seen if I was to try a bit harder, more people would see me. So I love this first part of what you said, that there's something there's something else that maybe when we settle into something more essential about ourselves, the big S self that you said, we can find that there are parts of us that can get these needs met right here. I don't have to be in pursuit of getting seen by the world. I can actually attend to what's right here. So there's that part of it. And I could feel when you were speaking, my whole body settled. And I can feel that this source comes from, well, I suspect it comes from this big S self, or something even deeper, in which the things that we hold separate are not separate from one another. Mm-hmm. So brokenness and wholeness are the same, and twisting and being straight are the same, and empty and being full are the same. It's not one or the other. When, it's so hard to find good language for this, but when I imagine that in order to shine forth, I have to show myself, I separate the essence of who I am, which shines forth anyway, from, I create a division between that and the reaction I'm going to get from other people. I get confused about where things are. And I was thinking whilst you were talking about, because I'm reading this other book, which I'll probably bring a source from at some point, about the sun, reading this book called Solar Ethics, which somebody gave me. It's so what's a wonderful book. And the writer of Solar Ethics says, look, the sun just shines. It's not asking for anything. It's not trying to get anything. It's just doing the thing that the sun does as it shines. That there's a letting, I'm really struggling for words here, but there's a letting ourselves fall into what's here. That can be such a powerful way the very thing that we long for gets brought about. And of course, lots of other things gets brought about in all of those ways. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm particularly struck by, just as I'm speaking to you, by the connection between competing and competitor. Because so many of my defense strategies are actually competitive strategies. Like if you say something to me that is wounding to me, I might then try to defend myself in a way that has me be somehow better than you. If I can show you and me that I'm better than you, then I don't have to listen to what you have to say, and I don't have to feel so wounded. What if I could find a way simply to include you and what you have to say, and me and my response to it, without having to do so much about any of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh gosh. So the thing I'm now thinking is kind of like unsayable somehow.
I think that's the problem we're having with this.
It's so hard. What I'm sensing with all of your words and what's unfolding in me now is that all of this is not, like, broadly in our culture, we're taught about polarizing. We're taught about this or that. And we're taught about right and wrong. We talk about, extremes of things, yes and no. And there's something that's really kind of oversimplified and scary about that. And so this, by articulating the poles, it's integrating somehow for me. So by telling me that there's two things of having little and gaining much, in a way, it creates a space in between those two things that I feel welcomed into. So I'm now feel catapulted into the in-between of the things. I feel like each of the sentences kind of opens up something because it's neither one nor the other. And therefore, what else is there? So a little like, often we come back to this third space thing of like the thirdness. And I feel like this is what all of this whole book does for me, is it catapults me into the thirdness, which is kind of why it saves my sanity, because either side of this, straightness and twistedness, is two parts of my madness. But if I kind of either say it's neither that nor that, or I mingle them together so I don't know what's what anymore, either way, something else has to emerge in me. And I don't know what that is, but it's a really powerful thing that keeps breaking me open. And probably that's what Lao Tzu was. It was a breaker opener, and he had this teaching come forth, and all of these wonderful people have got hold of it and put it through their systems and felt the humanity in it and brought language like Ursula has to us. And so I just feel like it's an antidote to our kind of cultural, habitual polarization patterns that say you have to pick a side, you have to pick left or right, you have to pick whether you're with this or without this, or whether you're for this or against this. And those things, you know, I can't remember, I think we were in some kind of election, everyone was wearing stickers around the place saying this is what I vote for, and I just couldn't, even if I voted, I didn't want to say I've chosen a side, because it doesn't feel like who I am to choose a side. It feels like I want to go, oh, this is there and that's there. And then I think this is why this feels such a welcome to me, because when you're a person who can see a lot and feel a lot, it feels really like impossible to land somewhere so firmly that you really know anything that thoroughly that you'd really land there. So I feel like if I get to land in the middle, if I get to land in being in whatever this opens up, I feel like something's possible from there that is more appropriate for being, for humans, than to kind of put all my eggs in the basket that, you know, there just really shouldn't be any baskets kind of thing. And I don't even know whether this makes sense. It's just, this is the thing it gets me into. There's like I'm trying to just say what this is like for me to be in this. And it's hard because this is the kind of book I sit there and I read and get kind of blown to smithereens and just kind of recover a bit and let it have its way with me. But I'm not sure I can find the language really.
I'm so pleased you're bringing in polarizations into this part of our culture, because I can feel as you're talking this thing that I was getting onto about the depths that are here. So for many of us, the culture that we're in would force us to choose between broken and whole. Broken or whole, twisted or straight, empty or full, having a little or having a lot. And I'm with you that there's something here about the importance of the mysterious in between. This thing that we call the third space. We keep on finding out what third space means as we do this as well. But I could feel, as you were speaking, I could feel arising in me, Lizzie, is it's not the simple in between. It's not like halfway between broken and whole. It's the something that is, I'm going to say it in this really funny way, that it's not funny way, it's a mind-bending way that I understand comes from a Buddhist way of thinking about this. It's broken and whole, and it's not broken and not whole, and it's both broken and whole, and it's neither broken nor not whole. Anyway, I can keep going on this, but what I can feel in what you're saying is that the in-betweenness is saturated. It includes both the ends and the middle, and the way they interpenetrate one another. That's what it means to not, because we could polarize ourselves. We could get rid of the polarization of broken and whole, and then we could get into the middle and not the ends, which is just another polarization. I was thinking about what you were saying about voting. What is it to vote because we stand for something, and to stay open to the other, and not just to go in the middle and go, I don't know. What is it to commit to both brokenness and wholeness in a way that doesn't dissolve them so that they don't exist, but also honors that there's a place that's neither of them and there's a place that's both of them? And it's really hard to talk about this, but I think it's really important because it messes with our ordinary sense making, and it messes with our certainty. That's the thing that is such a relief to me. I can feel tears coming up as I said it, because I think this demand that I be certain or uncertain that arises from me, and that I'm certain about my certainty and certain about my uncertainty, that's endless, that I have in me that I think comes also from our culture closes off to us so many ways of knowing ourselves and the world that would be available if we were to relax it. And to consider even the paradoxical that brokenness is the path to wholeness, and that wholeness is a path to brokenness. And brokenness and wholeness are both different from one another and not different to one another. And I'm right at the limits of language, but what I notice about it is that my body feels different talking about it this way than it does when I'm trying to divide one thing from another and choose an end that I'm apparently meant to be at.
Yeah, Justin, as you're speaking, I'm kind of feeling into this possibility that maybe what the magic of this is, what the engineering of this is so understanding of what it means to be a human, ego, personality, that it's essentially kind of structure smashing. So I think that's the relief for me, is that I am broadly, deeply sick of my structures in a way. I'm sick of my structures. And so when something speaks to the thing that's not the structures, or at least smashes it apart, even though I'm smashed apart in the familiarity of myself and the personality of myself, which has discombobulation in it, like we're both saying, the bigger experience is relief, because the beingness of me gets kind of welcomed, which isn't articulable so clearly as the structured me. But the bigger me, the bigger self, or the beingness that I'm encountering every day with having a little baby in my life, that beingness becomes something that's in my experience once again. And I think that's why I'm kind of addicted to this book, is because it shoots me straight in there.
Yes.
And so I could just say, oh my God, this is completely confusing and I don't know what it is, and put it down again and walk away. But instead I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm confused and it's discombobulating. Give me some more, because that's a relief to me. That's like a deep breath and a sigh and a relax, and like, oh, this is what life is, kind of feeling.
I think that's what this whole book is. My very, very limited understanding of this, something that in this book is called the way, or the Tao, is the something that's underneath everything. It's the way, it's the path that's underneath, it's the way that's underneath. And our trouble is we forget what's underneath. So the relief that we feel when something can speak to the underneathness of us, and the underneathness of us that's not also just personal. Like, one of the things I feel is happening for me is I'm falling into this contact with that which we all are, that which we were never divided from. There's something that we're all walking together. It's not just mine. And it's a relief to find myself not alone there. And all of the forgetfulness that comes from my trying to figure out broken or whole, twist or straight, empty or full, show myself, justify myself, praise myself, compete. None of my wrestling at that level really gets me in contact with the way that's under the way. And I suppose the relief that I feel is the knowing that that's what we are. We're more that than we are. You know, we have all these amazing capacities to think and act and move and love and speak and everything, and they are us, but that's not the whole of us. And so the very way this discombobulating language works is to go, and maybe that's why it's called Growing Downward, which is Ursula Le Guin's title for this. That when we start to let those things fall apart, the polarities fall apart in the obvious way that we are, we inevitably grow downwards, and we discover deep roots that are intertwined with the world itself and intertwined with one another.
Yeah. Striking me that it's called the way, not your way. It's the way.
Yes.
Not my way.
No.
It's a universal way. It's the
Right. Yeah, right. Well, thank you, Lizzie, as always, for being in this conversation with me. And I want to say a special thank you to those of you, everyone who's listening along with us, because it's the permission of everyone for us to get, that we can get discombobulated here, that we can not really know what's going on, but keep talking to one another and find out what's here. The permission granting for us to do that, that we give to one another, but also comes from being part of a community who are in this conversation simply by being alongside us. I feel very grateful for today. So we will be back next week, and please join us then. So welcome to join us then. And Lizzie, thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, bye-bye everyone.